Humans sent their first message to the stars in an attempt to contact extraterrestrials.
In 1974, a group of scientists sent a message into space, intended to be received by an intelligent alien species. The message, written in simple binary code...
The message was written in binary code and contained information about human DNA.
...described life on Earth. Using the most powerful radio telescope available at the time, the message was broadcast to a dense cluster of stars in the constellation Hercules. This exercise was more of a ceremonial demonstration, a way to showcase new technology in radio astronomy. No one truly expected a response, and even if one came, it wouldn't be anytime soon. The nearest star in the direction of the broadcast was 25,000 light-years away. So the telescope was set to 2,380 megahertz, aimed at Hercules, and activated. The scientists congratulated each other, shook hands, and carried on with their lives. But 27 years later, something completely unexpected happened with that message sent into deep space. Someone wrote back, "This is the story of crop circles and a recent UFO sighting in California that shocked everyone."
Crop circles are basically features, designs, illustrations of high complexity in crops. They tend to be complicated designs of unknown origin.
Since at least the early 1950s, flattened crop circles have been discovered in fields worldwide, with similar rings appearing in snow and ice. In the early 1990s, these formations began as simple pictograms and gradually evolved into intricate symbols and complex geometric patterns. While many now dismiss the phenomenon as man-made hoaxes inspired by two artists from Hampshire, England, the analysis of the affected plants and soil suggests that genuine crop circles could not have been created by hand.
In terms of the patterns themselves, they've been undergoing this amazing sort of ramp up in sophistication. You can find these huge, what they call pictographs, that span hundreds of feet across a whole field and feature multiple components. And they're arranged with mathematical precision.
Though some hoaxes continue to emerge today, science is able to distinguish them from an older, more mysterious phenomenon. Researcher Terry Wilson has documented over 300 circles that predate the 1980s, arguing that the phenomenon may be centuries old and widespread. A pamphlet from 1678 tells of a farmer who saw a fiery light in his field the night he joked he'd rather have the devil mow his crop than hire a worker. The next morning, he found his oats neatly cut at the ground and arranged in a spiral. The next documented circle occurred 2 centuries later. In 1880, an English citizen scientist wrote to the journal Nature, describing several distinct circles of flattened, swirled crop in a wheat field, each with a few standing stalks in the center. Farming families worldwide, especially in England, have claimed to see such circles for generations. Although few were documented until the late 20th century, in 1937, a British archaeological journal published a report on 3.5 clearly defined circles of beaten-down crop in a barley field, including the first photo of a possible circle. The 1950s brought greater attention to crop circles, particularly when they appeared alongside UFO sightings. In 1952, the U.S. Air Force investigated a circle of neat concentric rings of flattened grass in Kansas, where a man had seen a UFO. In 1963, a farmer in Wiltshire, England, found a hole resembling an impact crater and several circles of flattened wheat in nearby fields. Astronomer Patrick Moore inspected one of these formations, writing in New Scientist that it had well-defined edges, a spiral pattern, and a few standing stalks in the center. In 1965, 27 different circles appeared in a South Dakota wheat field, all swirled in a clockwise direction. Other circles have been discovered in Australia. In 1966, a farmer near Tully, Queensland, saw a saucer-shaped object rise from a swamp, leaving a swirl of bent reeds on the water's surface. More circles were found in the swamp, and the following year, the Canadian Department of Defense investigated 3 circles in Alberta. In 1979, Chris Rutkowski published the first article on the ring phenomenon in Manitoba. However, crop circles rarely received major media coverage and were generally regarded as a byproduct of UFO activity. In 1976, a farmhand in Hampshire, England, stumbled upon a single circle in a wheat field. 2 years later, he discovered 5 more and took a photograph. In 1980, the Wiltshire Times published an image of 3 circles in an oat field, which caught the attention of meteorologist Terence Meaden. Meaden proposed that crop circles were created by stationary whirlwinds, later suggesting an electromagnetic plasma vortex as the cause. However, many aspects of these formations remained difficult to explain as natural phenomena. In 1981, 2 additional clockwise swirls were found at Seven Barrows, an ancient burial site near Oxford. These circles were identical in size and angle to the burial mounds, raising more questions. The circles were situated in clear view of a busy road, yet, strangely, no one saw them form. In July, 3 clockwise circles appeared in a line at Cheesefoot Head, a natural amphitheater near Winchester. Pat Delgado, a retired electromechanical engineer, visited the site and began studying the circles. He later joined forces with Meaden, Colin Andrews, an electrician, and Busty Taylor, a private pilot who helped them locate new formations from the air. Together, they founded Cereology, the study of crop circles named after Ceres, the Roman goddess of agriculture. Over time, the cereologists made surprising discoveries. They found that the plants in crop circles were almost always bent 90 degrees at the ground, not broken, even in crops like canola, which usually snaps when bent. The crops lay in continuous, flowing patterns, and they continued to grow at the angle they were bent, taking days to bend back up. They were resistant to being straightened by hand. Many circles also featured decorative arrangements in their centers, and the walls of the circles showed signs of distortion where they met tram lines, as if the agent laying the crops had been pulled into the gap before rebounding. The stalks were often lightly charred, as if flash burned, and flies were sometimes found melted onto the wheat heads. Genuine crop circles were always pristine on the first visit. No footprints or paths of trampled crops leading away from the formation, unlike the tracks left by visitors. The phenomenon is global, though most crop circles appear in southern England. These formations often appear near historical landmarks like ancient burial sites, Roman ruins, and sites such as Stonehenge and Silbury Hill. Many crop circles are found near bodies of water, like man-made ponds or underground aquifers, and more frequently where the water table is near the surface. They also tend to appear near military installations, and military helicopters have been spotted inspecting some formations. Delgado and Andrews have both been chased from fields by British helicopters, and at one point, the U.S. military plowed a circle in Kansas and covered it with shredded crops. People who encounter crop circles report experiencing various unusual phenomena. Strange artifacts show up in photographs, compasses lose their direction, batteries drain, and engines stop working, only to restart once outside the circle. Many also hear loud crackling, buzzing, humming, or trilling noises. Researchers have noted time distortions in these areas, and people entering the circles often have strong physical reactions, ranging from nausea and vomiting to pain relief and even healing. In the mid-1980s, the nature of the circles began to change. Some appeared with rings or featured different layouts, such as counterclockwise rotations, S-curves, and layered designs. Some stalks were only bent halfway to the ground or halfway up, while a few circles even grew in size or changed their formation after being discovered. Every time Delgado's team identified a common trait among the circles, a new formation would defy that rule, making them believe they were dealing with an intelligence. In August 1986, Busty Taylor, while flying near Cheesefoot Head, mentioned wanting to see all the formations they had found so far arranged in the shape of a Celtic cross. The next morning, the team found exactly that in the field where Taylor had wished it. Many others have had similar experiences, either manifesting circles or sensing their shape before they appear. In the summer of 1989, over 30 researchers spent 10 days at Cheesefoot Head. One night, while trying to make contact with the source of the phenomenon at a pre-existing circle, they heard a strange chirping sound moving around the formation, seemingly reacting to their thoughts. They also saw a light in the crop around them, and Delgado was pulled backward by an unseen force. Later that night, Andrews and George Wingfield, co-founder of the Center for Crop Circle Studies, recorded the sound. The next day, they discovered a new circle less than 500 meters from where they had been. In the mid-1980s, a lab in France began studying plant samples from English circles, finding that the nodes of the plants were elongated and often exploded open. Ufologist Jean-Jacques Velasco explained at the 1989 Society for Scientific Exploration meeting that the plants had been exposed to intense heat, causing the moisture inside to turn to steam and burst through the nodes. 2 labs in England confirmed that the soil samples had been altered by a fierce and quick heat, which also changed the structure of the plant stems. American biophysicist William Levengood found that the affected plants had altered growth patterns and, in some cases, showed electrical charges. Levengood also discovered that heating plants in a microwave for 30 seconds could reproduce the changes in the nodes. In 1992, he co-founded the BLT research team alongside John Burke and Nancy Talbot. Building upon Meaden's research, the team proposed that the crop circles were created by ion plasma vortices falling from the ionosphere. These vortices would rotate in the Earth's magnetic field, emitting microwave radiation that heats plants and causes them to bend. Delgado and Andrews had already published the first book on crop circles in 1988, followed by another in 1990. That same year, writer John Michel launched The Cereologist, the first journal dedicated to the phenomenon, and Meaden organized the first conference in Oxford. Cereology was starting to gain some credibility in the public eye, but that progress was short-lived. In 1990, while Delgado and Andrews were conducting a surveillance operation in Wessex, they announced a new formation. A group of reporters rushed to the site, cameras in hand, only to discover it was a crude hoax, complete with hoaxing tools and an astrology board game. This scandal damaged the reputation of Cereology, but the real blow came in 1991. The Today newspaper in London published an article featuring 2 artists, Doug Bauer and David Chorley, who claimed to have been creating crop circles in southern England for 13 years by flattening crops with ropes and boards. Today invited Delgado to inspect a formation they claimed was one of Bauer and Chorley's creations. Delgado initially declared it genuine, but after hearing the duo's story, he allegedly admitted he'd been deceived and conceded that the crop circle mystery had been debunked. Although he changed his stance the following day, the damage was done. The story spread worldwide, and many media outlets declared the end of the crop circle mystery. Despite this, the consensus in mainstream science and journalism that Bauer and Chorley's account was true doesn't hold up under scrutiny. For one, Bauer and Chorley repeatedly failed to show their ability to make convincing crop circles. The first circle they made for the cameras was poorly constructed, with broken and tangled wheat stalks and a path that was misaligned. They attempted a more complex formation in 1992, but again, the path was off-center and the satellite circles weren't aligned properly. In 1998, Bauer appeared on a BBC program where he tried to recreate a circle from 9 years earlier. He ended up making it twice as large as it should have been, and eventually gave up, leaving another team of hoaxers to finish the job. Additionally, several of Bauer and Chorley's claims are inconsistent and contradictory. Bauer has given 2 different versions of how he and Chorley decided to create their first circle, and at least 2 versions of how his wife discovered their work. When asked how he avoided trampling the crops while moving between unconnected circles, he absurdly claimed that he pole vaulted between them. However, all known hoaxes are connected by paths of trampled crops, which is not the case with genuine crop circles. The plans they showed reporters also had measurements that didn't match the actual circles, and the angles they proposed didn't align properly. It's clear that no one could have made crop circles the way Bauer and Chorley claimed, as flattening plants with a board would break the stalks and not produce the unusual biological effects, like the blown nodes or burns that come with a real crop circle. From the ground, a hoaxed formation is easy to spot compared to a genuine one. Despite this, Bauer and Chorley inspired imitators like John Lundberg and Rob Irving. Nowadays, hoaxers are responsible for about 95% of crop circles worldwide and often claim credit for them all. However, no hoax has the distinct features of a real formation, and no group of hoaxers has successfully recreated a circle they took credit for. It's also worth noting that crop circles existed long before Bauer and Chorley claimed to have started them in 1978. In the early 1990s, crop formations began to include more complex designs. In 1991, a giant tetrahedron covering 11,000 square meters appeared, along with a fractal pattern called the Mandelbrot set and a strange code or script. While the number of genuine circles dropped after Bauer and Chorley's claims, the total number of formations actually increased, reaching 110 in 1994. The next year, several maps of the solar system appeared, and in 1996, the Julia set, made up of 149 different circles, was found near Stonehenge. Oddly, it wasn't noticed until the evening, just 45 minutes after a pilot and passenger had flown over the area without seeing anything. Later that summer, a triple Julia set appeared. After 1997, crop circles became even more intricate, with some displaying complex geometry and 3D shapes. In the early 2000s, they played with perspective and illusion. By that point, around 10,000 genuine crop circles had been reported across 26 countries. These circles often relied on mathematical concepts like the golden ratio and incorporated esoteric symbols such as Egyptian hieroglyphs, Buddhist chakras, and the Kabbalistic tree of life. In southern England, circle activity peaked in 2009 and has since declined, although formations still appear globally. Interestingly, not all formations are found in vegetation. Some have been carved into ice sheets or drawn in snow. Many researchers have pointed out that crop formations often appear at the intersection of channels of Earth energies, which Guy Underwood referred to as geodetic lines, though mainstream science rejects their existence. BLT research suggests that crop circles in England are most common where a giant, electrically charged underground chalk aquifer comes close to the surface. In fields with frequent circle formations, BLT has detected magnetic currents that dissipate after the formation appears. Additionally, the roots of plants in the circles are known to grow in the opposite direction of the flattened stalks, which may indicate a shift in the Earth's magnetic or gravitational fields. Some people report witnessing the formation of crop circles. According to these witnesses, the crops are flattened in a smooth, continuous motion with no visible cause, and clouds of steam or mist appear as part of the process. The time frame for these events varies, with some claiming it takes seconds, while others say it lasts a few minutes. UFOs are often seen before or after the formation of a circle, and many have spotted small orbs of light, which have been captured on video and in photographs. Columns of light are also reported prior to a circle's appearance, and these have been documented as well. There are many theories about the forces behind these circles. Velasco and ufologist Jacques Vallée suggested that the British military might be responsible, testing a secret-focused microwave beam technology. However, many believe the creators are not human. Andrews has proposed that the circles are the result of an intelligent Earth-based force capable of interacting with human consciousness. Meaden later conceded that the more intricate designs of modern crop circles couldn't be made by plasma alone, and stepped back from crop circle research. Freddie Silva, who worked with Andrews, argued that sound waves could be used to create the patterns. Experiments dating back to the late 18th century have demonstrated that when a fine, granular substance is placed on a surface vibrating at a certain frequency, it forms complex geometric patterns. It suggested that crop formations might be similarly influenced by inaudible sound vibrations. Though Delgado passed away in 2009, Andrews and Taylor continue their research, and Nancy Talbot has carried on the work of her late colleagues at BLT. Current researchers include Terry Wilson, Lucy Pringle, Freddie Silva, and Richard Taylor, among others. While hoaxes are common, it's clear that some crop circles are more than just human-made art. When crops are flattened mechanically, the stalks break rather than bend, and their nodes aren't stretched or blown open. Evidence suggests that the plants in crop circles have been exposed to intense, brief, and selective heating, possibly from a plasma vortex or a focused microwave beam. The question of whether this force is natural, military, or of some unknown origin remains unresolved, but it's clear that the phenomenon began long before hoaxers became involved. Now let's discuss the recent UFO sighting from California that has taken the internet by storm. A mysterious UFO was spotted recently in California, capturing the attention of both locals and internet users alike. The object, described as spherical in shape, appeared to emit intense radiation that seemed almost like fire. Witnesses reported feeling the heat radiating from the object, and many described it as having a burning sensation due to the strength of the radiations. The UFO was seen rotating in the sky, with its bright, fiery glow visible from miles away. A video of the sighting quickly went viral, sparking widespread debate and speculation across social media platforms. The footage, which showed the UFO hovering and spinning, was shared by thousands, with many claiming to have witnessed the event firsthand. Some suggested that the object could be a new military technology, while others speculated that it might be extraterrestrial in origin. Experts weighed in, suggesting that the strong radiations emitted could indicate some form of high-energy propulsion, though no definitive explanation has been provided. So, this concludes today's video. Please share your thoughts on these mysteries and subscribe for more.